Well, so thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, or?
Yeah, I can. My name's Connor. I sell vacant land out in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Um, Kind of looking at expanding out towards Tejeras, Edgewood, and a little of that. Our main clients are people that get double wides or are looking for a little bit more space, like you were saying, for possibly like a horse or a cow.
Yeah,
Um, I grew up out here and just kind of saw that market, and same thing when COVID happened. I saw my little opportunity to break into the land market, and we've been doing everything since then. Yeah.
that's awesome. So, what did you do before that?
So before that, I mainly was a firefighter. Starting when I was 15, I was working on my EMT basic and working for Corrales Fire Department, getting my wildland certification and then my provisional structure firefighting.
Cool.
Um,
So,
so yeah, I did a lot of large vacant land management before with the state.
okay.
After that, with larger wildfires.
Yeah, I bet you got a good handle for the state of New Mexico and things out there.
Yeah, more or less. I was a little born with that. I've been around the whole state my entire life. Just so yeah, I was pretty well versed in New Mexico. That gave me a big opportunity to expand out towards the West Coast a little bit, though.
Oh,
So I got to see a lot more of Oregon and California, Nevada, Colorado.
yeah,
Um, Got to travel a whole lot while doing that for a few years.
yeah. Well, thanks for doing that. I know that I have a couple buddies that are in the fire department. Dangerous work and important work and
Oh yeah, it's tough. It's
protecting
wild seeing
people
those camps grow. You'll have 6,000 people in a few days.
that are displaced.
I mean, yeah, so if you've got a larger incident, say in like California or Oregon, where those usually happen, um, I was on an initial attack crew. So we would be in the first 20 or so firefighters to show up. Usually within 72 hours or so, there would be a massive camp, laundry, food, caterers, um, showers, like little mobile units like that, sleeper trucks that would sleep like 40
Taking care of
firefighters.
the staff.
Yeah, that is a huge incident just to do the incident command center is what they'd call it. But yeah,
Yeah,
you'll have thousands of people there, mile long lines for catered food, and
yeah,
they grow pretty quick.
yeah. The logistics, I'm sure, are really important.
Yeah.
Make sure everything's smooth there. Um, you mentioned Tijeras and Edgewood. That's where I'm from. I grew up
Oh,
in the East Mountains.
oh, nice.
Yeah, I grew up off of Zuzak's exit.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We were looking at houses in Cornwall
Okay.
just recently for ourselves, so yeah.
Oh, for yourselves?
Yeah.
You and who else?
Me and my fiance.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, she's a part of that
Congratulations.
land grant too, so it kind of makes it a little easier.
Oh, that's awesome. Of the
Oh yeah,
Cornwall Land Grant.
of Cornwall and Chiloli too. So yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
opens a couple of doors for us that I wouldn't have opened myself.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. How did you guys meet?
We met in high school, went on a couple dates, and nothing really happened from there. About 3, 4 years ago, we were just at Stone Age, the rock climbing gym,
Yeah.
and probably ran into each other 3 or 4 times before even saying anything. But then from there, it's just been history.
That's awesome. What's her name?
Yeah, Lexus.
Lexus?
Yeah.
That's cool. Congrats.
Oh yeah, thank
How
you.
long have you been engaged?
Officially only since October. We bought our first house in 2021, and from there we've been practically married. But I wanted her to buy that house single so she could use the tax credits and all.
How's that work?
So you get a first-time home buyer's credit. That's something you can get every 2 years. It's a deceptive name, but it is a little easier to get that credit if you are single. So she has purchased her house, which I'm not on the deed, I'm not on the mortgage, anything. And now that we're getting ready to buy our next, if it's not in a land grant, I can buy it and I can use a first time home buyer's tax credit.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can get married. And once you're married, you both have to be on the
Deed.
Yeah, the deed and the mortgage.
The mortgage.
So essentially just trying to double dip.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Take
Oh, yeah.
advantage of it. Do you
Oh,
have a
that's great.
date setting set for your wedding?
We're looking into it. We've got 200 acres of land out in Chiloli that we can use for our wedding.
Cool.
It's got a road through it and all, but I kind of want to set that up as the venue. Just instead of paying for someone else's, might as well improve what we have.
Yeah. That's awesome. Chiloli down South 14 and all that
Yeah.
area and on the east side of the mountains, that's like my stomping grounds.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful area to be around and it's fun to explore.
Yeah, we looked at a house over in Sandia Park a while
Oh yeah,
back, my wife and I, and it was on what, 6 acres or something?
it's a good bit of space.
Yeah, it was perfect, except it was at least it was a little small of a layout for my wife.
Hmm.
I don't mind the idea of having a little smaller house, something easier to maintain, but um I like the property. It has horse property, which is what we're looking for. She's done equestrian horse jumping
Oh, so yeah,
almost
there's
all her life. So yeah, there was a little horse barn and it was perfect. It's just too far from here. Like we really kind of set our sights on Placitas area
yeah.
and that side of the mountains. It's close to my mom because my mom still lives out there where I grew up in Zuzak's off of Zuzak's exit in T Harris. But um that place in Sandia Park, it was like a hour round trip to and
Oh
from
yeah.
work,
No, it
so
is a drive there.
yeah,
But
yeah.
did you end up settling in here in Rio Rancho then? Is
Well, we live on the east side of town,
oh, okay.
kinda by the mall right now.
Yeah.
We're just renting a house. It's a nice house, though. It's a 1,700 square foot house, and we came from a 800 square foot apartment in
Oh,
Los
so it's a
Angeles
huge up.
last. So, yeah, it was a huge upgrade, and it was half the price.
Yeah, you're getting double the place at half the price. That's
Yeah. Yeah, that's the difference. Well, that was 2020 LA to New Mexico.
oh yeah.
Yeah, but I spent 6 years, uh, out of New Mexico, but I spent the rest of my life here.
Oh, yeah. What were you doing out in LA?
Mm, working in the music industry, we
Oh,
both
okay.
were.
Oh yeah, you were saying the sign and
Yeah,
all. Yeah.
yeah, doing the sign gig. It was a cool gig. I would do like the project management and then show up on site and lead the crew, and we'd install big signs for music festivals.
Oh, okay.
Like most of the major ones in North America, Deluxe Design does. Like they do Austin City Limits, they do Bonnaroo now. Those are two of the new ones when I was leaving, but um, they did all the ones on the West Coast for Insomniac, like EDC Vegas and Hard Summer that Insomniac took over, and then Live Nation and Country Nation events. So like Tortuga, Electric Forest. It was like name any major music festival. Deluxe Design is doing the signage for them. They're right over there. So
Hmm.
we did that. My wife was an events manager, so she would do. She worked for the two major food and beverage companies, and they would do like make sure the bars got run and the food vendors. They would do that facilitation for the promoters.
Hmm.
So it was a fun job. We got to travel a lot, but just wanted to settle down and you know
Get out of the crazy lifestyle of that, I'm sure.
yeah, I'm really big on my routine.
Hmm.
Like I honestly think it's made the biggest difference. I think the number one thing that affected my career and my success was honestly getting up early and getting my day started early in the
Yeah.
morning, and then that lifestyle of like staying up late and partying and going to the
Yeah.
events and the afters and working all day, and then there's the party and then you work, and it's like so fast paced, and a lot of it
Yeah.
was physical labor. And so part of it was just like we are talking about our business plan, you and I, a little bit earlier that
Yeah.
we did with the staff, but that is a big part of my way I operate, is just looking to the future and making a plan and planning for a long life and planning for success. So I think a lot of that came with the transition, but
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Well, that is the best way to go. I try to, as a business owner, I know you can't really tackle everything you want to in a day. But yeah, every morning it's just what can I accomplish and how can you end up a little bit better than yesterday? A
Yeah.
little better position than you woke up in.
Yeah. That's the motto is around here, 1% per day is
Mm.
what we talk about. Just getting whatever you're working for towards. If you do 1% per day, that's 365% per year. And that's if it's not compounding,
Yeah.
right? Imagine if you have 1% compounding on 1%, you
Oh
know,
yeah. It'll
Uh,
easily be.
even if you lose some days, you're still going to be better.
Oh yeah. Oh, and you can't expect to have every day for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You
But
get some wins and losses. But these are the questions we asked at the team meeting this morning when we were setting aside our ideas of what we want. So what do we want to achieve? And then we said, what is our objective? And then what's the wildly important goal? And like for us, I was really proud of the way the team responded with their answers. But number one was growth. So in terms of what we want to achieve, I thought that's really good. I think that's my main goal with this podcast too, and
Mhm.
with the Fundaxi networking and my involvement in the communities, get people together that are growth minded.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people are okay with what they have and don't want that uncomfortable step in between what they got and what they want to get next.
Yeah.
And I think that learning to be comfortable in that bit of uncertainty, all the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and the crazy things that you have to go through in order to get to the other side of all those challenges. I think learning to be comfortable in that space is what really propels you forward.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So growth was the number one. I thought that was awesome. Said make money was the number two, which is important. I think it's okay to talk about too, like the more successful you get, the easier it is. But I think even at the beginning, like we're trained fundamentally to, like I was at least growing up, to know that money isn't everything and it
Mhm.
doesn't, solve all your problems. And um, you know, it's important, but my dad always taught me like to be careful with um not to get greedy, right?
Yeah.
Because it's okay to want money and to want a lot of money, but you always want to do what's right. So there's a way to have both. I think I've learned as I got older and learned that it's important to talk about money. A lot of people, when you put
Oh,
money
yeah.
and numbers in the space, they get uncomfortable. So I think learning how to do that and learning how to be okay with wanting it and setting goals around it are a big part of growth. So I was proud that that was the second thing that they listed. And then they said reputation and customer satisfaction. So they want to
Oh, yeah.
maintain our reputation and make the customer happy. And I thought there's this thing from Warren Buffett that's really cool where um he says you should try to delight your customer. Not just make them happy, but try to delight them. And I
Oh,
thought
yeah.
that was pretty interesting of like just trying to be exceptional.
Oh, yeah. I've always loved the concept of just under promise, over deliver.
Yeah.
Because we try to do that with like our customer service is one of our biggest things with
Yeah.
vacant land. It's hard to go out and find the lot you're looking for, but we'll meet you out there. We stake the lot, we show it to you, and that next level of customer service seems to be the number one thing our customers mention when they're leaving the closing table is just thank
Yeah.
you for actually meeting me out here. Thank you for helping us through this and not just throwing us to the wolves like anyone else doing this would.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I can see that in the way you operate. Like you're hands on. You were saying that you designed the logo that you're vertically integrated, right?
Yeah.
So, um, I can see that in your approach. Like as simple as what you said, staking out the lot.
Yeah, just going out with our equipment and staking the approximate boundaries just to get that general look of the land that you're actually seeing. Because most other people will just list the land. It doesn't have stakes. There's no sign. You just know it's on 31st Street,
Yeah.
and that's all.
No, yeah, that's a big, like, as easy as that is, some people are just too lazy to go stake it first. And
Oh,
most people are really visual. So,
I've found even just looking across the country, we're pretty unique in this.
yeah.
Almost no one does that level of customer service, and it's wild to me.
Yeah.
And I mean, realistically, you see a lot of sellers too having issues with real estate agents because they want to list this. They want to go get drone photos and have a professionally done thing, but the real estate agent's only going to get 5% commission and they're not getting out of bed for $300 to
Yeah.
go do all that work in the middle of the desert. They're going to
Yeah.
go sell a house.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I
So,
mean, I think looking at return on investment versus process, a lot of people make that mistake maybe of going, hey, it would cost me $300 of my time to do this. And then that's an excuse not to do something. But if you just build things into your process that you do every time, it doesn't feel like it's taking away from your opportunity cost.
Yeah, no.
I think about that a lot. Like, the way we work as a staff, it's like certain things, it shouldn't matter how much time it takes. It's like that's just the right way to do something. So
Mhm.
if you do that more and more and more, as long as it's not stacking too much time against you, what it is it's building your brand, and it's
Yeah.
building your reputation, which, is more important than losing
Oh,
a little bit of
absolutely.
money here and there.
Yeah, well, I mean, after this, I've gotta go to a closing, and our customer actually found me from social media,
Oh, cool.
and she really enjoyed our videos, and she was having an issue doing this. They've been scammed before where they went and they paid for land, and the guy didn't own it.
Oh,
So, having that trust from our customers, all of our Google reviews, our website, having that social media presence really did help bridge that gap to getting her to the closing table, and yeah, she feels good about buying land, even though she's been scammed in the past.
that's awesome, man. Congratulations on your closing.
Oh, yeah.
It's exciting. Always a good day when you get to close something, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's better than last week. Last week, my partner was out, so I was
Uh-huh.
handling everything by myself there, and it was a
Right
hectic
around the
week.
holidays too, I
Yeah,
bet.
right around the holidays.
Wow. Well, you said a couple things that I thought were really interesting. So, one, social media is just a really powerful way to drive business in this digital age. I think it's the most important thing that,
Oh, yeah.
like, just getting on a podcast like this is like someone new, and you're putting yourself in a new space, you're putting yourself out there, and I think it's like it's crucial. That's that level of uncomfort and discomfort that I think everybody feels, a little social anxiety
Oh,
on social media and with video and all of that. At least me personally, it's been a process, and I feel like I
oh,
get
yeah.
better every time. But we met through Kyle, and Kyle
Yeah.
and I met through Instagram, and
I met
Austin and
Kyle
I
through
met through
Instagram.
Instagram. So the power of
Yeah,
Instagram right now to further your career and take care of yourself and your family and your business is like
huge.
it's huge. It's almost yeah, it's almost like hard to quantify the potential of it. I think every entrepreneur, there's a certain flame that gets fed when you see in unlimited potential.
Yeah.
Like there everything has a cap. And when you look at something that doesn't,
It's a
it's pretty exciting.
Oh, yeah. You could just post the right reel, and you're gonna have your phones ringing all day tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, we're blessed right now because it's like the phones here are just ringing off the hook right
Oh, yeah.
now. And it's been a steady challenge, at least for an insurance agent. I know that the first 3 years are very difficult. And we're pretty much over the hump in terms of what I thought would be the question of whether or not I could succeed at this industry. And like, the just to see the systems and processes that I've put in place start to pan out is really rewarding.
Oh, yeah.
And the the phone lines, sometimes my concern is that the pipeline is too full, which is a wild problem to think about because you work so hard at wanting to get more connections and more potential customers. And then what do you do when you see a bottleneck forming to make sure that you're not
Yeah.
missing any opportunities?
Oh, yeah, able to give each client their attention. We
Yeah.
have that same issue with our business as my partner does more of the acquisitions. So
Yeah.
she's buying these properties, and sometimes they take 9 months, 12 months to buy. Sometimes we'll get a lot of inventory at once, and then these mobile home parks and mobile home dealers and everyone who's getting a double wide buys it all up in 2 weeks, and then we're out of our best inventory.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've kind of ran into that same issue of just the ebbs and flows of your how much you can handle at one time, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And then, I mean, I think what you start looking at in terms of where your focus is, like the red car theory, like, they say, well, how many red cars did you see on the way to your office? So you don't know. until you decide to start counting red cars.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the land acquisition is a lot like that, where I'm sure you just can't turn it off, where normal people would just
Oh,
drive
yeah.
by a Starbucks and you see empty lots everywhere, or like you're looking at the foundation or the grade of different things or trees or water. Like
Oh, yeah.
what are you looking for mainly?
So I look at a few different things. Rio Rancho, I know a lot better than the rest of the state. Um, my biggest things why I'm bullish on the market. You look in northern Rio Rancho estates outside the city limits, and you've got the AMREP Corporation owns huge parcels of land. Now you can find little half acres here and there right in the middle of it. That's what we call kind of the fly in the ointment strategy. These lots are pretty rural. They're crappy access. You're not building on them for less than $1 million, and you're not spending $1 million to build out there. But I like those because they're cheap. You can buy them, and it looks like AMREP may develop this eventually. Likewise, I'm looking at Albuquerque Academy. They own, I want to say, 2,500 acres right by Mariposa.
It's huge.
In that same kind of northern Rio Rancho on the estate line.
Albuquerque Academy owns land on this side of town.
Yeah, right outside Mariposa.
Interesting.
They've got, I believe it's an 1,100 acre parcel and like a 460 acre one.
Is it an investment property or?
It's speculation. They don't have any information out on it right now. It's just being used as like a ranching lease.
Fascinating.
But it's right outside Mariposa. There's a lot of development there. I don't think I've seen any homes under $350,000, $400,000. So
yeah,
I would be pretty bullish on that. But that's one of the things I look for as like the investment side. On the shorter term, you can kind of see where, there's a house that wasn't there 3 months ago. And that's a little what we're looking for too.
Yeah. You mentioned the client who had been taken advantage of in the past because the person who sold her the land wasn't the person who owned the land.
Yes.
I've heard about that a few times.
I've heard about that many, many times.
How is it even possible to sell someone land when you don't own it?
Well, it's illegal, of course.
Okay.
So it is 100% a scam. There's two that I've seen. So anyone who's selling land is probably going to ask you for around $300 when you sign. And that's just what we need to pay the paralegals to get the deed drafted and all.
Sure.
And that's pretty standard myself and any others. But it's also pretty standard with the scammers who will show up, show you the land. They'll want $300 and they'll just go to a steakhouse and have a good dinner. For the ones that get a little bit more ballsy in it, you're going to be actually charging them their down payment, the full price, taking payments, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's usually just a fake deed. They won't take it to the county. And that's where these public resources kind of come into play.
Yeah.
Anyone can go to the county clerk and they can ask for every deed for land that I own, and they can leave with a copy.
Yeah.
They can go look at all my tax bills, all of that. They can see when we bought it, what the previous owner did, everything. It's all on record.
So a consumer could protect themselves by getting that information themselves.
Yeah.
How would they do that?
Well, so that would be all through the county. So most of those are public documents that you have to go in person to get. You might be able to call and verify, but yeah, you would have to leave with that public document.
Sure. So you could go to the county and you could ask for the deed for the land that you're prospecting.
Yeah.
And they would show you, and then you would cross-reference to the person who had claimed that they would take your money to start the documentation process would be the one way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so essentially when it comes to the consumer too, if you're not real well versed in that and you're not too trustworthy of the seller, I always recommend a title insurance company because they're essentially doing the same thing. They're having someone who reviews title all day, every day, go look through the deeds, make sure it's clear. The history of Rio Rancho, the AMREP Corporation purchased it from Albuquerque, I want to say in 1961.
Wow.
And then they put in all the roads, subdivided it. It was just one large tract of land.
All of Rio Rancho?
All of Rio Rancho. So there is not a single deed, anything that is past 1961, which makes it really nice because you go out to Zuzak's and you got stuff from like 1890s that you're dealing with. But so that actually made it real easy. They kind of scammed people themselves back when they did that, is they would go out to New York and Chicago and go wine and dine some rich people and show them a map of Rio Rancho with this beautiful lake in the center, the forest,
seen photos
all
of this
that.
water
Yeah.
from the west side, and they take the water picture with the mountains in the
Yeah.
back, and it's like a pond.
And yeah, and they're
There's
they're
no giant
referencing the
lake
little pond that they've got
out here.
on the Santa Ana reservation, but you can't get to that 360 days a year.
And there's a city in between the
Yeah.
lake and the mountains. What
Yeah.
is that advertised? I've seen some of the stuff you're
There's
talking
a
about.
lot of wild
So they would
advertising.
go show people this stuff about Rio
Yeah.
Rancho, and then what?
Oh, and then they would just kind of like a timeshare. So they would try to get you to put a down payment down, $1,000, $2,000, and then you're paying $250 a month or something. For most people who bought from them, we've kind of found out they spent $6,500, $8,500 per half acre, which for a lot of our investment parcels, that's about my price today in 2023.
Yeah.
So these people were paying
40 years ago, you're talking about?
500%. Yeah.
500% markup.
It's something like that. And it's payments. So they're paying this for years like it's a bill.
Right.
And they'll get the deed. And it was all clean title. And they got exactly what they were told, but it wasn't really.
Overcharged.
Yeah. They were buying investment land. And AMREP actually did this in 4 or 5 cities at the same time.
Wow.
But Rio Rancho, people started moving here. And all these other cities are vacant. There's nothing there. But Rio Rancho actually got a little bit of traction.
Do you know some examples of the other places?
There's one outside of Florida that was, or somewhere in Florida that was a real big one.
That's interesting. So one thing I've wondered, like one time I came across this article, was like the 5 things you should look at if you're going to buy vacant land.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a guide, like a rule of thumb, like, you know, like what do they say when you buy a house? It's like the foundation, the electric, the plumbing, the roof. Yeah. Like you want these things to be solid and, or what?
Yeah. I wouldn't say there's a one size fits all. Yeah. I think your very first thing is, why do you want land?
Why? That's a good question.
Why are you actually interested in this? And that's usually my first question that I'll ask someone. A lot of folks think that they're going to move into a double wide, so that's something you want electric close by. Electric is very, very expensive to extend.
Yeah.
I have 2 parcels right now. One's on the corner and it has an electric pole, and one is 240 feet away. The one that's 240 feet away is going to be about $35,000 to get electric extended to.
$35,000 to go 240 feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's a
but
huge
that's
price.
Still better than not having something, because you're already looking at the potential to make sure that this has electric in that place.
So that's another thing, is if you were asking me, but you don't think you're moving in 6 months, I'd recommend the one with the expensive electric situation.
You have time.
You may have a neighbor come in, extend it, and now you have something that's worth a lot more versus paying for that electric today and not needing it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's interesting. You were talking about setting customer expectations earlier on under promising and over delivering. I thought in my head, like, I think the under promise part is the finesse really with the customer, because someone who's good at like the kind of stuff that you and I do, where you're guiding people through what can be a complicated process, where it's a regulated industry, and you need professionals to guide you through the process. So when it comes to that, I think the under promise, that's where the finesse is. Like, and a friend of mine, his name is Joshua Robinson. He's a local realtor, and he's very creative with his marketing. And he's another one of these people that connect on social media really well and use it to drive his business. And one thing he answered, we did a podcast, and Daniel had a bad experience with the realtor. And so I asked my realtor friends, like, well, what would you do differently? I like to challenge those are important. When someone had a bad experience, I like to know why, you know what I mean? You ask all those questions. Why was it? So that you can reverse engineer the process so that people have a nice experience.
Oh, yeah.
And he said something that I really liked. He's like, well, I always communicate to people who, what, when, where, why, when, and how.
Yeah.
I tell them all of that, right? And some people might think of that as over communicating, but if you do that and it happens the way you told them to predict, or at least you prepared them for the things that maybe you couldn't predict the outcome of, then now all of a sudden you've gained people's trust. And like you said just now, like, why? It's powerful. That question is really powerful. Why do you want the land?
Yeah.
Then you can reverse engineer all this process. Like if you're going to move in right away, then you need electrical. It needs to be ready to go. And if you're not, then you can move in somewhere where you could put it in eventually. And
Oh
here's
yeah.
how much it could cost. Like you straight up upfront about it.
Oh yeah. Oh, and to shoot myself in the foot, the other day I was talking to a potential client, and he wants to invest a larger amount of cash. And what I was telling him was kind of the opposite of what he wanted to hear, I think. Um, is he wanted to buy lots ready to go in the city. And I was saying you can buy lots in the city that aren't ready to go and probably get a lot more investment potential out of it, which
Yeah.
in my case, I'm shooting myself in the foot. He was talking about two $25,000 lots, and I'm talking about two $5,000 lots.
Sure. But you're doing what's best for him.
Yeah.
It's interesting too to sometimes think about like it's your job to invest in land and get return on investments, and a lot of people are that thinking about that, but some people are just willing to pay to have something be done so that their time is protected.
Oh, absolutely. And
well.
that's in the case of my customer today, that seems to be the case, is they're buying that lot with the electric on the corner.
Yeah.
But they're not quite ready. They probably have a year or two, which isn't quite the longest timeline to recommend the one 400 feet away. But this lot will probably be a great investment, and that kind of gets their foot in the door.
Yeah.
And for these clients, it's a great setup. The way that they do the double wide mortgages, or the way they can do them, is they'll take your land as your down payment. And then the mobile home people will do everything. They'll set up the foundation, extend the electric, do your propane, septic, everything for you. And they take your land, use it as your down payment, and then hand you a regular mortgage, just like any other house.
That's pretty cool. So do you guys partner with the mobile home manufacturers?
Yeah, we've done some work with Factory Homes Direct. And yeah, it's been pretty good to work with them.
Awesome. So are you primarily, I know you said that that's your ideal client as someone who's moving a manufactured home, but are you primarily focused on manufactured homes, or do you do site built? Is there a difference in the kind of land you need to do a site built traditional home? Or permits?
Not
or?
necessarily the land you need, but usually the land the consumer wants. So if it's land in the city, that's generally going to be a custom home that would need to be built rather than a double wide.
Yeah.
Our largest clients, though, are double wide owners, and that's usually in the county, just because you don't have the impact fees of the city, and it's just a little bit easier with the zoning. You don't need a 2-car garage, anything like that.
Yeah.
So usually outside the city, you're saving yourself $50,000 on day one.
Wow. That's wild. Is land generally appreciating still? Have you been following the market? Has it been?
Yeah, I've been following very closely. It's steadily appreciated since at least 2019, 2020.
Yeah. Wow. Did it go crazy, like the cost of labor and materials and the value of homes over the past 3 years as well, or did it follow that?
It trends along with it. I feel that land has a little bit less liquidity than housing markets, so you're generally not seeing sharp upturns and downturns.
Yeah.
But you do kind of see it follow the same trend line.
Yeah. So when the average Joe buys a piece of land and they don't pay for it outright, they finance it, what kind of financing options are there for land?
So, our biggest one is our owner financing. And this is hugely popular with a lot of our customers, is we finance it. There's no credit check. There's no income qualifications. We'll take a set down payment depending on the property you're buying, and then a set monthly term. We do record those documents with the county, and then we'll take it over to American Escrow, where they'll actually hold on to the original deeds while you make payments on the land.
Wow.
And then for the consumer, they can use the land in any way that the county would allow.
How cool is that? I'll admit, I didn't even know that existed. So Falcon Land would be financing the land.
Yeah, we'll finance it directly to you.
That's badass.
Oh, yeah. And it makes it easy for a closing process, too, because usually if you're financing a home, you've got 30 days in closing. You've got to reach out to your mortgage lender. You've got to get an appraisal and all that. We can close in 48 hours after you've decided you want it.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then from there, you can move your home on next day if you want.
Awesome. You mentioned your partner who does the acquisition. What's her name?
Her name is Julie.
Julie?
Yeah.
Is she focused on a certain part of New Mexico?
Well, so I guess we share some responsibilities with the two sides of the businesses. I handle all of our marketing, so I'll send out some postcards to anyone who owns land. Um, I actually use a virtual assistant in Pakistan for that, so
Oh,
he's
cool.
working just about all day every day, finding me new leads to send postcards to, and then I send them out. So she'll just have her phone ringing all day long.
Cool.
And yeah, as those calls come in, she'll take them. Usually I'll kind of batch our groups of mailings on certain areas. So right now I've got a lot of double wide inventory, so I'm focusing more on investment parcels. But I bet in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'll probably be out of mobile home inventory and kind of have to switch back to that.
Back to what? To which?
Back to marketing for mobile home
Oh, I
kind of
see. You
inventory.
fill
Yeah.
up the pipeline and then
Yeah.
started in phases, and it lasts you a month or so, kind of.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to measure on the acquisition side because some of these, we'll send a postcard January 1st, but they may not call in till March when they,
Sure.
need some birthday money or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a little tough to track.
Yeah. I mean, I think commitment there really pays off because, at least for us, one thing I've found, like you mentioned, someone may get a touch. I call it like a touch when they get something from you, right?
Yeah.
Then on average in insurance, it takes 6 touches before you can convert a customer,
Oh, yeah, I'd
right?
bet.
So we practice this thing. It's called 6 steps to a 1 call close, like where you can earn someone's business in 1 phone call. But I always joke that there's 1 step to a 6 call close too, and that's just to make a friend. You
Yeah.
earn someone's trust and you put those things out there that show that you're not going anywhere and that you're established, that you're reputable, and that that puts you in the right position so that you get to the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. Now you start getting conversions. But what I've found is you may think that something hasn't panned out, but it's just cooking.
Oh, yeah.
And 6 months later, people call me and they switch, and then they switch back and they say, "Hey man, they come crawling back. I had a bad experience. I want to come back to you guys. It doesn't matter what the cost is." Or like you meet somebody at an event, just like the networking event that we were both at, and it changes your whole life. Like 30 seconds of meeting one new person, then 2 years later, I'm making $4,500 and I didn't make
Yeah.
any money over
For
the
the 2
year and a
years.
half,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's that's the commitment factor that rewards entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is that
Oh, yeah, big time.
willingness to plant the seed and then watch it grow later,
Yeah.
right?
That's how I see our financing big time it's passive income at this point. It's work that I did 2 years ago, but when we're financing, I'm obviously not taking home any money that day.
Right.
So it's going to take 1, 2, 3 years before I make any profit. But now that we're on year 3, I'm kind of starting to see it trickle up a little every month and
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of in those comfy shoes of like, hey, I actually own the business now.
Yeah. And it's got a certain solid, like what's more of a foundation than land? Like you put the foundation on the land,
Yeah.
right? Doesn't go anywhere. House burns down and the land's still there. Like
Oh, yeah.
I do you see anything more powerful for investing than land?
I mean, I always carry this with me, but I do love my silver and gold.
Silver and gold. Can I
Silver
check
and
it
gold,
out?
yeah. I don't think it's gonna appreciate really. It's just a great hedge for inflation, and I don't know. It's a little inspiring just to
I love that term, hedge for inflation,
yeah,
because it's a different mindset. So if people don't understand that concept, gold, its value in theory
oh yeah,
will keep increasing. That's a
oh
beautiful
yeah,
coin, by the way.
oh I love it.
What's the deal with Australia?
So I love Australian and Canadian gold and silver,
Hmm.
the Perth Mint and the Royal Canadian Mint. Both have much better equipment than anywhere else.
Huh.
And if you saw it as the 4 nines, so it's 0.9999 purity.
Yeah.
On a half ounce of gold, it's like $6 a content we're talking about.
Where do you buy it?
This was hard to track down. I got that at a show. There's a few places in Albuquerque I'll go to though.
Oh, that's cool. I'd be
ABQ
interested to
coins and metal.
check
Yeah.
one of those out with you.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I've seen that shop.
Yeah, there's another man. It's ATWT coins. Not a legit business. And that's what I love is there's no tax, which kind of helps with investing there. You're not spending $100 in tax at the end. You could buy a couple more ounces of silver.
Yeah.
But
That's awesome.
yeah, like I said though, I don't think that's gonna appreciate. It's a hedge for inflation. It's
Yeah.
kind of fun to just hold.
Yeah. I like that term hedge for inflation because as a business owner, I think about that a lot. Like as the cost of goods increases, which inevitably it will, we saw what happen to eggs.
Mm,
You know what I mean? It's going to, if it doubles or triples what it costs for something, if you have a product, if you're offering a product or a service, then that's your hedge for inflation because if the cost of the product or the service increases, the consumer's going to suffer, but the business owner makes more money so that they can buy goods and services without noticing the increase as much. It's like
mm,
I used to work in the oil field and it's interesting because you see the balance there. Everything is it's just kind of like different levers because the consumer has to pay more for gas, but the oil and gas industry makes more money. So I think it's like the same
yeah,
concept. If you're a business owner, then going to the grocery store is going to cost you more money, but your business is going to make more money. So that's your
yeah.
hedge for inflation.
Oh yeah.
I think that's really fundamental way to think about things as a entrepreneur. But back to land a little bit. I guess you said something about I'm just interested in the area, like geographical area. You said something about going out towards the west coast, or that was with when
That's the
you're
firefighting.
as a
Yeah,
firefighter.
I have looked at land out there too, but yeah.
So do you guys specify? You guys are specialized in New Mexico?
For now, yeah.
Yeah.
That's get our company going by the bootstraps kind of strategy. I want to expand through the state. Personally, I think by the time I'm 30, I'll probably be living in Durango,
Yeah.
and I want to expand through Colorado and all too.
Yeah.
But
That's
I love
exciting.
planes. I want an excuse to have a plane someday, and I gotta have land real far apart if I can
That's cool.
justify that.
I was just gonna ask you, like, if you had all the money in the world, like, what would the wild goal be? And is it like
Dude,
that, flying a plane?
Yeah, more or less. All the money in the world, though. I think I cap pretty quick. There's, I mean, you need to have a Cessna, a little $50,000 plane for a couple of good years before you can upgrade to what I'd actually want.
Which is
just like a dual prop, not like a jet or anything. It's still a $500,000 plane,
yeah,
but something smaller, like a minivan, essentially.
yeah. My grandfather flew a Cessna.
Oh,
It was awesome. My grandfather, he lived to be 86, and in his 80s, he would like walk 4 miles a day, and he was interesting because he was a stern man. He was very different from my family, very much a patriarch of like our cousins and my mom's side of the family, and he worked for Chevron Oil, and he owned a Cessna and lived in Scottsdale, basically in Fountain Hills, Arizona, and he took a lot of pride in his plane, and he had a hangar, and his call sign was Alpha Papa, so it's like nostalgic for me to think about his plane. He had it featured in Pilots magazine, I think.
Oh, nice.
And it was
That's probably a really clean one, huh?
It was the cover. Yeah, it was a great photograph. It was of a Cessna when he was flying it over the Grand Canyon. And I'm not sure who took the photo because, this was in the 90s and it was another plane next to him. And it was just a super clean photo. Maybe I can look it up and send it to Austin.
That'd be cool.
I keep telling you that I'm going to send you pictures of stuff and I never do.
Just point up to right here.
Right here. The Cessna. But that's cool that you want to fly a plane like that.
Oh, yeah.
He let me take the controls when I was a teenager. That was really fun. We flew over the Grand Canyon and he just said, take over, and it had the 2 controls.
Yeah.
So he just passed it to me and I got the feeling of how to
That's
turn and handle
exactly how I got bit by it too. My uncle owns a crop dusting operation right outside of El Paso.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, when I was 6,
yeah,
probably got up in one of those, and I did the same thing. Had me take over the controls, and it was just whoa, that's
a whole new feeling.
Yeah, I haven't even driven a car.
Have you ever been in a helicopter?
I have not. I've been in one, but not like actually flying.
Not taking off?
Yeah, not taking off.
It's just because it's one of those feelings, like you mentioned, like, whoa, you got the bug, like you got bit when you took the handle. Riding a motorcycle gives me that feeling
Yeah.
too, where you're like, you feel the gravity and the machine in a way that's really
Yeah.
personal and like you feel alive. Like I felt that feeling when I first took off. We got to ride a helicopter in Vegas one time,
That's
and
what we were just looking at that the other day. Is the Vegas Grand Canyon tours?
oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we flew over the EDC Vegas.
Oh,
One of our promoters took us up when we worked the gig one time, and he saw like 180,000 people and all the lights at this concert. It was
that's
awesome.
crazy. Yeah.
But yeah, as soon as you take off, like, so you feel weightless. I have a friend at the labs, and he teaches people how to operate Blackhawks,
Oh,
and they have simulator. I was telling him, like, dude, you got to let me come by and
try it out.
try it out.
Yeah.
So they have and it's got like a mounted 30 cal or one of those chain guns on
Oh,
the side
yeah.
of it. And they run operations. I don't think they have that clearance to just let a
Let
civilian
anyone
go in
try
there,
it, yeah.
but I'll ask again because I really think that'd be awesome. But have you flown a plane yourself?
I'm not solo pilot. No takeoffs or landing, but yeah, with my uncle there, I don't even know how many times.
Yeah. I think that'd be a good skill. I think everybody's got a little bit of a doomsday prepper and hiding in their mind a little bit.
A
Some
little.
people further than
Me with my
others.
silver stack.
Yeah, exactly. Like when the pandemic happened, I told myself, I was like, I'm going to be so prepared when the next one happens, just because I never had like been that kind of a doomsday prepper where you like have the generator and the solar and you can go completely off grid. But I've been wanting to a lot more lately, looking into those kinds of things. Like, but I think being able to operate a plane and a helicopter would be two skills that like I think would be really cool to have.
I don't know if I could ever get a helicopter down. That looks crazy
Right?
complicated there, but yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. It just there's no what's the difference? There's no wings, I guess, is the weird part about it.
Yeah. Well, I just don't know. The thrust differences, how you maneuver, it's a little different because, yeah, you don't have the wings to change your air, yeah, your pitch.
The pitch. I think landing would be the scariest part about both of those.
Yeah, from my understanding is you have to have a much lower weight to land your plane than when you take off too. And one of the biggest issues is if you don't have that low enough weight, you'll kind of bounce and go right back up and have to try it again.
What do you mean low enough weight?
So you'll usually start like with a tank of water or an extra bit of gas, and you'll have to dump it in the air just so your physical weight of the plane is less, so it can land and decelerate easier. But you need the weight to take off too.
Yeah,
so you can build up your momentum.
I never thought about that. So pilots are planning their trips to burn enough fuel to have the right weight distribution when they land.
Yeah, you see it a lot more with big planes, but like if you've flown into LAX, and they always fly over the ocean there for about 10 minutes, that's what they're doing, is they're essentially dumping fuel to make it easier to land.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, so what else? Like, would you transition to property investment eventually, or is land's the thing?
So, well, Julie owns a commercial building, and originally I'd kind of been interested in single family rentals. The house we bought was bought with that in mind. We're living in it, but
yeah,
we could easily move out and rent it for double what I'm paying.
Yeah.
To be honest, though, seeing the difference between a relationship with a commercial tenant and a commercial landlord versus residential,
right?
I don't think there's any way we're keeping a residential house when we move. I want to sell that and get into a commercial building.
Go in a commercial side. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. And through insurance, it's the same thing. Business owners just tend to be a little more savvy and a little easier to work with as a general whole for clientele. But there's more of a firewall in terms of getting to know them and getting in front of them.
Yeah.
So there's the trade-off there. It's like residential is a less of a barrier to entry, and commercial is a bigger payoff in terms of service labor.
Yeah.
So I imagine it's kind of similar in real estate.
Yeah. Oh, and I think my biggest point with it is the emotions involved.
Oh,
If you have an air conditioner out on a house in July, it's a
yes.
big deal. You are messing with a family. There could
No
be a
kidding.
baby, there could be a dog. You don't know any of this stuff. With the commercial building, they just had to redo the roof and air conditioner. Of course, it's air conditioner in the middle of November, so it's not a big deal. But if that same situation happened in July, it's not really the end of the world. They
Yeah.
can go into the bays, into the warehouse there and stay cool like they're out working. It's no one's losing sleep that night because it's hot.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing. That, and it almost seems like you have a business partner. It's not that tenant landlord kind of relationship I've seen with residential.
Yeah.
It's you actually can come together mutually and say, hey, FedEx hit the building. How can we fix this? Okay, we should put up barriers right here.
Yeah.
And it's real logical. It's quick. It takes 2 days to get something done. No one's getting crazy stressed out about it. It's just money, just business. It's
Yeah.
simple compared to dealing with a neighbor or anything like that, having to move a family into a hotel for 2 nights.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's well said. Like I guess I think of loss of use coverage a lot on insurance. Like if you're business, if you have a business loss, you lose income, your business shuts down. Like that's something on commercial insurance that's designed. A good insurance agent make sure that you're going to get paid quickly and that you're taken care of there. But a business owner prepares for that, and they have a plan in place. Usually, at least most of the people I've talked to and come across that are successful,
Oh,
they've thought about the risk and the emotional aspect both, like the financial risk of loss and how to prepare and to plan and deal with it in a way that is professional. And whereas if you're managing your home and your family, you may not have prepared to the same extent
yeah.
if that's it. So I think, but I think it's like everything else where we have a responsibility to pull people up the ladder in a way
Mhm.
of how you think and how you educate. And even if it's 30 seconds of like, hey, did you think about if your home, if you passed away, what would happen to the debt in your house? Right.
Mhm.
Even if all I do is plant the seed that someone needs life insurance to protect their family from that situation, then I've done my job because um you can't you can't get all the way in one day all the time. But I like the idea of the ladder, like pulling people up the ladder, thinking of it as an analogy because you spend here's how the thing I learned goes. I think it came from this guy Justin Prince, this crazy motivator. He's amazing. But you spend 30% of your time with people that you can lift up, right? You can bring them up the ladder. You spend 30%, 30, 30, 30. 30% of your time with people who are doing the same thing, about the same level as you, have the same stuff, have the same ideas, and you spend 30% of your time there. And then you spend 30% of your time with people that can lift you up,
Mhm.
right? And that's a really important one, is to find mentors and find people that challenge you in that space, that they're going to help you get to the next ladder. So you stay balanced. And I think that's part of it. We were talking about today, part of our 2024 business plan, and how we're going to retain more customers and increase our retention percentage, which is a big goal of mine. So there's a lot of strategies, but one that came up was, well, why don't we just find customers that are going to stay with us longer, that are going to be better?
Yeah.
That was the most obvious answer. And I I think that it is the obvious answer, is you try to find people that you're going to work with that are going to be on that level, that you're going to have a more beneficial, longer relationship. In other words, people who are high net worth is
Mhm.
usually who that is. The people that understand that the product costs money and that you're going to have a mutually beneficial relationship, and you're going to get more than the product in terms of value from the person you're doing business with. But I mean, that's easier said than done. Like, we'll just find better people
Oh yeah.
because you can't just have that space because they're the people that got there, they earned it, and there's really a whole lot more people that can go from that area. So I see it more of as an opportunity to bring people up and they become that. And honestly,
Mm.
when someone told me that when I was first starting out insurance, I didn't know if I believed it because I was too new. Someone showed me like, you're going to find a client that's a business owner, and then they're going to do their business insurance with you, and then they're going to do their business life insurance with you, and then they're going to get their kids' life insurance with you, and then they're going to insure their personal vehicles with you. They're going to insure their commercial vehicles with you, and then they're going to buy an RV because you're going on this process where they're going to make more money. I was like, okay, that's just fantasy, but it's true. The people, you find those people, and if you help them get from A to B,
Mm.
all of a sudden you're at H or I, and they don't forget it, and it just keeps snowballing. So
Oh
I
yeah.
think you need to do both. Like, you go for the things that are low labor, high profit, but then you also find the things where if you invest a little bit of time and sweat equity into people,
Oh yeah.
that they reward you as well.
No,
Both
I've
directions.
seen that with like some of our repeat customers too, where they're starting off buying $5,000 lot, which is about our bare minimum, and
Yeah.
they're coming back and back, and you can kind of just see the growth happening.
Yeah. So do you have clients that you teach how to become a land investor and you've seen them thrive at kind of being a little agency within your agency or anything like that?
I've had a couple customers that have like resold lots of ours for a profit. No one who's really grown too much. For the most part, I see our clients go from not owning land to buying and holding, buying and holding, buying and holding.
Yeah.
Just kind of acquiring it up. But there's a lady I've sold, I don't even know how many lots to, but her and her husband have bought these $5,000 half acre just investment lots everywhere. So there's
Smart.
25 units in Rio Rancho. They at least have one in every unit.
Wow.
It's completely diversified as well as you could be. And
Yeah.
these people that they're buying and holding, then to be honest, they're probably never going to sell. They'll probably pass it along to children or something. But yeah, you see how people have grown into being comfortable investing in land.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the behind the scenes, I think that work is a little too dirty, a little too long too. 'Cause some of these properties will buy in a week, and it's not that hard, but I'd say 9 times out of 10 there's some other issue involved with the title or with the person selling, or there's a divorced couple that's not in contact with each other that you kind of got to re-bridge together for a day to sign in front of a notary or
You got to leave that to the
stuff like that.
professionals.
Yeah, and that's where it gets to be really difficult, and even just finding them.
Yeah.
It's really hard to find someone who bought land in the 60s, gave their number to AmRep, and that's your last record.
Sure. Well, it's the American dream to own a piece of land, right? And
Oh yeah. Oh, they're not making any more, so
yeah, it must be rewarding. I mean, thanks for everything you're doing for the community. It's exciting, and I appreciate your time coming on. How are we doing? It seems like we did an hour. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I say we respect everybody's time, and
Alright.
we'll call it there. But yeah, I think it's pretty awesome that you were here.
Oh
And
yeah. Well,
really
thank you for
appreciate your
having me.
time.